Hello, hello.
Hi.
We made it
Victoria,
work.
feel so accomplished. My first Instagram live. I feel so honored we're together.
Me too, and well done, you.
That was so quick too. So I'm
Why,
really
thank you.
excited to be talking to you, Victoria.
Too.
This is my first Instagram live. Thank you so much for debuting, and I can't wait to talk to you. I've been thinking about our time together for the last couple of days.
I
Well,
know, I'm so excited.
how about you introduce yourself to everybody who might not know who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Victoria Albina. I use she, her pronouns, and I am coming to you live from occupied Lenape territory, also known as Brooklyn, New York City. I am a life coach, a holistic nurse practitioner, and host of the podcast Feminist Wellness. And my passion is helping women to overcome codependency, perfectionism, and people pleasing.
Wow, you must be busy.
I'm pretty
You sound.
busy.
I feel like we like overlap and don't overlap, and but like we have the whole love connection, which
Yes.
is a primary piece of your practice and what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's everything, right? I think it's the most important supplement we can take. It's the most important diet there is yeah, that focus on self-love.
Well, can I just pick your brain for a few minutes? And
Absolutely.
I'm Jessica, for everybody who might not know if you're new to this. I'm from the Loving Diet. Um, and, and I'm curious, Victoria, how did you come to do what you're doing? Like, would you become a nurse practitioner first and then the life coaching second? Like, how did you come to be helping people like you are?
Yeah, well, it was a circuitous path, I will say that. So, for anyone out there who's like, I want to do this, but this is my current title, I am here to tell you I'm on like my eighth professional incarnation, and I feel amazing about it because I keep
Mm-hmm.
following my intuition to the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, my path comes, like many of us in the helping world, from being really sick physically and emotionally. So I had wicked IBS my whole life. And
Oh,
I, in working to heal that, working with a functional medicine provider, holistic providers, I came to understand that while fixing the physical body is absolutely vital, and in my work as a holistic and functional medicine nurse practitioner, I saw people get better through all that, right? The right nutrition, the right supplements, killing the parasite, all of it. It really wasn't until we made that mind, body, spirit connection and learned to listen to the thoughts in our heads and how they were creating our reality that I was able to get well, and so were the people I work with. So I actually started as an herbalist and a birth doula, sort of working originally in the holistic space. Yeah. I worked in public health for many years throughout the global south, which was absolutely amazing. But I missed that one-on-one connection with humans. And I was really obsessed with health as like a sciencey nerd. So I went to UCSF and trained to be an NP, and yeah, did that for years and years, got all this functional medicine training. But after doing a bajillion stool tests and adrenal tests, I was like, this isn't the path for me to lead people down,
mm-hmm.
because it continues that divide, that like right brain, left brain, right? That divide where people were getting obsessed with the data and the numbers.
Yeah.
And in my core, in my spirit, I knew that the way they were talking to themselves, the fact that they were saying yes when they meant no, that
Mm-hmm.
they were living their lives to try to please their parents, their partner, to like not have the neighbor think something bad about them, right? Like all those things were keeping their nervous system from functioning appropriately and optimally, which keeps us from digesting, which keeps us sick.
So when you're saying that, it sounds like sometimes the first step that you take with your patients is to find out what they like their thoughts are as the first step to look at the mechanical pieces, the physiological pieces that oftentimes, and what do you feel like is sometimes preventing people from taking that first step? Like, what do you see, like if we were to talk about it, maybe politically,
Yeah.
spiritually, like there's all kinds of moving parts. I guess we could just dive into one that you feel like is the big one of, because
Yeah.
it's scary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's simply the piece of not knowing that another reality is possible, right?
Uh-huh.
So when we grow up with parents who are codependent, who are perfectionists, who are very demanding, who are people pleasing, right? Who care a lot about appearance or whatever that is, that's modeled to us. So as very smart children, we do very smart things like do what keeps our caregivers happy. Very
Yeah.
smart.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
right? And so as adults, folks don't even realize that another way of living is possible. And so that primary piece is, I think, education, right? Like helping folks to raise awareness of the way their habitual thoughts are creating their entire life. So
Wow.
to right education around the nervous system and understanding things like polyvagal theory, which I can nerd out about if you'd like.
Love that one. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. And yes, I think that the patriarchy is a big issue. I
Mm.
think that for humans socialized as women, the patriarchy really, to put it elegantly, f's with our brains and makes us think that we're supposed to like be in certain roles and be certain ways and do certain things. And if you haven't hit these milestones, like married with two kids and a house and a certain career and like by a certain age, like you're just doomed.
Uh, last night on the American Experience on PBS was all about a 2 hour special on how the women got the vote, just to kind of tie into this. And one of the things that they said, which I thought was brilliant, was people think women won the right to vote. They didn't. They took it. They took their right,
Right.
which is kind of a little bit in the vein of what we're talking about, because I want to ask what you think about this topic that I feel like is slightly sensitive in the world, but it is so important, which is this whole self-love thing that we have going on, which I feel like is amazing and beautiful. And, we both work in that world, but I feel like it's watered down or distilled down into something that I was wondering if your thoughts are of like what you see happening, like people are told about this whole self-love thing, and maybe where you might course correct or have something, that might be useful to everybody as far as, what are we going down the wrong path? Are we not? Like,
Right.
what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, so I am a big believer in the lessons from positive psychology around a strengths-based approach, right? And
Oh,
so when we build on everything that's not working in our lives, the place where we're not in self-love, and look at that as a gift, right? My inner child learned this behavior because she radically loves me and wants me to survive.
yeah,
But I think we get to start there. We get to start with a strengths based approach. And I'm not sort of, that's not the popular paradigm. I think what can happen in our like Instagrammy world is everything becomes the hashtag and the trend and like hashtag self love, which means like hashtag self care, which means like a spa day. I mean, we're not going anywhere right now, but
yeah,
pre Rona, right? Like a spa day or like an expensive something, right?
yeah,
Checking out of the world. And I think that's one of the big problems is that for me, it's never about checking out of the world in
mm,
order to find my self love, to connect in with myself, to show myself how much I care about me. It's
yeah,
really about checking in and getting super present and mindful and like, yeah, a bath is really nice. Like I love an Epsom salt bath, but there's the doing it because it, right? Like it checks the box on like the self-care list we were given on Instagram versus like I'm really checking in with my body from that wellspring of love for me within me. My body, my inner children are really asking me to do XYZ.
yeah. That's almost like a form of bypass, like spiritual bypass, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that, like that form of sometimes wires get crossed. How do I really take care of myself? How do I determine the places that are important? I mean, from my perspective, this whole new thing that I'm going into is the what we consider to be a lifestyle. Like, oh, if you
Mm.
care about your health, you'll have a lifestyle that does that. But we're instead of being practical about it, we're using it as a point of safety, and we
Ooh,
can bypass the parts that really hurt that need our own
right.
love in our efforts to have a good lifestyle, to, like you were saying, check all the Instagram boxes of self-care. And there's not a lot of checks and balances on this,
Yeah.
right? I was so excited to have you here because I feel like you're speaking that language,
Yeah.
of like, wait,
Yeah.
okay, actually, maybe maybe we could look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what comes up immediately for me is the like positive vibes only, like cut toxic people out of your life. Like
Mm,
if someone's negative, don't talk to them. And I mean, obviously if someone's abusive, but let's take that and like put that aside because that's not what we're talking about, right?
yeah.
So within this framework of like positive vibes only, I think you're right. It is asking us, it is demanding of us that we spiritually bypass because it is those most challenging relationships where we see our own shadow, right? And we see the mirror that like a difficult person raises for us, right?
I would even go so far as to say that right now, culturally in our country, we're watching a lot of the ramifications of spiritual bypass, and it is painful. The chickens have to come home to roost sometime.
Yeah.
We're seeing that both in
Mm-hmm.
the way that we deal with chronic health issues in this country, but then also on these other stages, of like where women draw power, who's in charge. Maybe we're going to reevaluate that. Like it's a really
Yeah.
time to start doing that.
Yeah. And I think, there is that invitation, building on what you're saying, for folks who are white or white passing right now to look at their shadow side vis-a-vis racism and to look at their internalized biases and to recognize that that too is self-love, right? Because I
Yeah,
think that I truly believe that we are in our most embodied, sovereign self-love when we know ourselves,
right.
right?
And that might
And
have to be redefined as we move through our healing path. Like who I thought I was, because what I find is that people tend to define themselves from a limited viewpoint because they
yeah,
define themselves from their past pushing
yes,
forward rather than their future pulling them forward. And
right.
so we start to get curious about those things, then the world opens up in a different way, and suddenly it has a different definition.
Yeah, I love that. The Spaniard phrase, you can't kiss the same girl twice, comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do get into these sort of like headstrong definitions of ourselves that like
Mm-hmm.
my arms are shaking thinking of it, right? There's a tension, there's a grasping, there's this story of like how I am. And I think you're right that it is a profound act of self-love to open ourselves up to say, maybe that's ever changing, right? And who I've been informs me, but who I'm building towards, that's the gold.
Yeah. Well, tell
Yeah.
me how you work with people then. Do you like do programs? Is it one-on-one consultations? So you have your podcast, your practice, like how do you how do you work with people?
Yeah. So currently, yeah, I have the podcast. It's called Feminist Wellness. It's on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora. It's like on all the things and it's free. So that's weekly. You can subscribe to that, get it right to your phone, which is a delight. I like saving a step, right? Um, so there's the podcast, which is my free gift to the world. And then I work with folks in one of two ways. I'm currently doing one-on-one work with a limited number of people. It's a really high intensity, high touch coaching. And I'm currently running a 6-month program called the Feminist Wellness Guide to Overcoming Codependency. And it is
Wow.
fun. I know it's so much fun. When I tell you, I'm like so in love with these humans. Like, I look forward to our calls. I open the Slack every morning because we have a Slack group so they can get coached every day if they want to. And I open it and I'm like, hi, I love you. What's going on? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Like, I love them so much. It hurts me.
That's so cool.
So we're starting up another group at the end of September as the current group comes to a close. And it's so dreamy.
That's
Yeah.
excellent. Um,
Yeah.
so you had a past where you were doing wake birthing work, but you're not doing that anymore?
No, that was moons ago. I learned after not a very long time that my adrenals are not built for 3 a.m.
Fun fact, I had a home birth, uh,
Yeah? How was
which
it?
was, well, I had a home birth and there was no toilet. So I lived in a
Oh,
Japanese tea house, like
oh,
30 miles away from the nearest hospital. And
yeah.
so, yeah, definitely, it was definitely kind of crazy, but I mean, my daughter's now 16, so it worked out fine.
How phenomenal. I love that. A Japanese tea house. What a place to birth.
It was pretty
How
cool.
cool.
Yeah. Um, so the other piece that I wanted to talk about was how people could get a hold of you.
Oh, yeah. So my website is victoriaalbina.com. And if you go right to the homepage, there's a place you can put your email in and get a
Mm-hmm.
suite of meditations downloaded right to your
Oh,
email. Yeah, it's really, I worked hard on them. So there's one about boundaries, inner child meditation, body scans, practice from the polyvagal nervous system world called orienting. Yeah, and you get all of those for free because I love giving stuff away for free. It makes me so happy. So,
that is
yeah, all of that's there. And
amazing.
oh, thank you. I'll be sure to send you a set of them when we're done.
Yes, I want to. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Yeah. And then
let
here I'm at Victoria Albina Wellness. I would love if folks followed me there as well.
Okay, great. On Instagram, and then anything on Facebook.
Yeah, all my stuff goes to Facebook. Facebook makes me tired. I don't like it.
It's a lot to juggle, the whole
It's a
thing.
lot. It's a lot, but I love Instagram. I have so much fun posting and doing lives like this with phenomenal people like you.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad we talked.
Me too.
You know, I just found out a whole bunch of new things about you too, and it's incredibly. It fills my heart when when I look out, because these are the kinds of resources that we need. We can build teams, but this is, from my perspective, the heart is always the glue,
Yeah.
and our compassion is what kind of holds the structure together. And you touched on so many pieces of that.
Oh,
The way that you were sharing. So I'm really, thank you so much for coming and being here on my first one of my inaugural Instagram live.
you did so well. You did so well. This was so much fun. Yeah, and I'd love it if you want to take a moment for the folks who are coming here from my page to talk about you, because the work you do is just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a book. I wrote a book called The Loving Diet, and it's a way to develop a different kind of relationship to your illness, one that comes from overflow rather than lack. I have a podcast that I do with Dr. Charmaine Kilcup called Modern Spirituality. We just started that, so it's sort of new, but that's also on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher. I have a website, jessicaflanagan.com, and I do private one-on-one consultations, nutrition and noetic balancing. But I also run a group, Transformational Eating, which is a self-compassion class for people with disordered eating from restrictive diets. And then I'm going to be starting a new class called Being with Your Illness, which is another form of self-compassion, to learn how to build a practice inside of yourself, to use your circumstances as an ally.
I love
Yay!
that. I love everything you're doing. It's so necessary, right? It's so
It really, really,
necessary.
it's, yeah, I think you and I both feel really happy to go to work every day.
Oh my gosh, every single day. I'm like, what can I record for the nice people?
Well, it's awesome you have a podcast as well. So I'm excited to put that onto my list and my Spotify podcast list.
Thank you. Likewise. I can't wait to subscribe, rate, and review yours.
Well, Victoria, thank you so much. I wish I could give you a hug. You're in cool
Yeah.
Brooklyn though, so you're across the country, but you're in the cool place. So
Oh, you goose. I mean,
it
it's a
was really
shutdown
great.
place.
Yeah,
This is
us here
so
too.
lovely.
Yeah, it was really great to
Yeah.
talk to you.
Such a
Thank you so much.
pleasure. Absolutely. Let's do it again sometime. This
Yeah.
was really fun.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Be
Yeah, let's
well,
do it.
and thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Everybody, yeah, thanks for
Bye.
coming
Thank
on.
you.
All right. Take care.